Look closely at this failed epithelial barrier. Deep, jagged fractures allow harsh, toxic particles to violently breach the tissue. A healthy epithelial barrier functions like a master-crafted stained glass window, protecting the interior of a cathedral. This microscopic architecture relies on two distinct components. The tight junctions between epithelial cells act as the rigid lead lattice, while diverse microbial communities form the multifaceted glass panes that filter out external environmental stressors. When this balance breaks, the tissue enters a state of systemic dysbiosis. Aggressive pathogens, such as Staphylococcus aureus, multiply rapidly and displace the native beneficial microbes. This pathogenic takeover shatters the cutaneous window. Without the loyal microbes maintaining the surface, wide gaps form in the tight junctions, allowing unregulated oxidative weather to pour directly into the skin. Chronic dermatoses like atopic dermatitis are structural breaches that directly dictate the global systemic immunity of the entire body. Embedded within the cellular lattice are toll-like receptors, or TLRs. As pathogens pass through gaps, these sensors flash red, emitting waves of pro-inflammatory cytokines into the underlying tissue. This persistent alarm creates chronic inflammation, rusting and warping the structural joints. The human body operates as a single interconnected edifice through the gut-skin axis. Damage in one area creates a structural resonance throughout the entire system. A localized inflammatory storm on the skin's surface does not remain contained. The signals propagate downward, eventually degrading the intestinal barrier in the gut. Surface-level barrier failure is a critical leak that forces the entire body to maintain a state of constant immunological alert. To repair the corrupted tissue, beneficial biological agents descend onto the warped cellular lattice, initiating the restorative phase. Molecular biomanufacturing utilizes living organisms to construct a proactive defense on the skin surface. The first component in this toolkit is topical probiotics. These live artisans, specifically strains like Lactobacillus, are deployed to clear out toxic debris and outcompete rogue pathogens. By colonizing the compromised framework, these microbes reseat the fractured glass panes, physically blocking further oxidative weather from breaching the interior cathedral. However, these artisans require materials. This brings us to the second component, botanical extracts. Microbes rely on these specialized raw pigments and reagents to synthesize protective compounds. Applying live probiotics yields minimal results if the environment lacks resources. We must supply the precise botanical polyphenols they need to metabolize, forge new glass, and rebuild the barrier. Through metabolic forging, probiotic artisans ingest botanical extracts and synthesize them into robust secondary compounds, layering them across the cellular lattice. These secondary compounds are postbiotics. They act as non-viable forged pigments that deliver immediate structural and restorative benefits to the compromised tissue. Postbiotics function as a rapid response shield. By locking in moisture and blocking UV radiation instantly, they buy the underlying epithelial tissue the time it needs to biologically repair itself. This chart measures the Chow-1 index, tracking the diversity of the microbiome. Following the metabolic forging process, we observe a 15% increase in microbial richness. This upward shift in the Chow index provides direct evidence that the diverse glass hues of the skin have been successfully reseeded and stabilized across the surface. A rich, diverse microbial surface cannot hold if the foundational framework underneath is failing. The biological glass panes are useless if the physical cellular joints remain warped and leaking. Chemical signals interlock with the edges of the biological fissure, forcefully pulling the two sides tightly together until flush. These signaling molecules are peptides, the final component of the toolkit. They act as high-strength structural solder, instructing epithelial cells to upregulate collagen production and rebuild the rigid lead cames of the skin. By chemically reinforcing the cellular connections, peptides increase the tensile strength of the barrier. They physically solder the tight junctions shut, forming an impermeable seal against water loss. We can quantify this airtightness by measuring transepithelial electrical resistance, or TER. This graph shows barrier impermeability trending sharply upwards, proving structural integrity is restored with a 25% improvement. By chemically soldering the tight junctions, peptides create a rigid, uncompromising bedrock. This solid lattice is the essential foundation required to hold the diverse microbiome in perfect alignment. This visual compares the pathological state of dysbiosis on the left with a fully sealed stained glass barrier on the right. The immediate immunological reaction is profound. Closing the tight junctions signals the underlying TLR sensors to stand down, halting the transmission of inflammatory panic signals. This recalibration results in a 40% drop in cytokine activity. Silencing these alarms polishes away the inflammatory rust defining chronic conditions like atopic dermatitis. Recalibrating the structural environment allows the internal guards to return to a state of peace naturally. Physical epithelial restoration forces an immunological ceasefire. Rebuilding the walls severs the chronic inflammatory loop that otherwise destroys healthy tissue over time. The newly secured tissue filters light cleanly, achieving what clinical evaluations measure as a 30% increase in skin brilliance. This final biological state is unified homeostasis. The skin barrier stands impermeable to pathogenic weather, yet perfectly clear and radiant in its function. This systemic resonance ensures that securing the exterior window helps shield the internal gut barrier from chronic inflammatory signals. Optimal global health is a masterpiece of biological architecture. It is an equilibrium achievable through the precise, daily biomanufacturing of both our cellular lead and our microbial glass.